Hello students, let's move to audio 2. Page number 89. I wrote in large block letters, catching a crook, expert detectives Nishad and Maya Pandit by appointment to the whole world. When I began writing, about half an hour later, I turned towards Seven, who was lying on his tummy, chin cupped in his palms, reading comics. Want to hear what I have written? I asked. He looked up questioningly. I have listed all the facts we know about Mr. Nath, which might help us to trap him, I said. Want to hear? Seven nodded. Fact number 1. Read. His name is Mr. Nath. I read. His name is Mr. Nath. We must discover his first name. Do you think that is real name, Maya? Nishat asked. Probably not, I said. Most crooks have an alias. I added a big question mark after Nath. Fact number 2. I read on. The tenants at Shankar House say he is mad, strange and unfriendly. Number 3. He doesn't talk to anyone and is mannerless. But he did talk to us, Maya, and Mama says he is very polite, Nishad interrupted. He only talked to us because he had to, I said, and since he was under Mama's medical treatment, he had to be polite. Fact number 4. He doesn't receive any letters. Seven nodded. Number 5. He has been living in room 10 of Shankar House for more than a year. I continued. Number 6. He doesn't work and sits in his room all day. Number 7. The kids in Shankar House and even some of the grown-up are scared of him. Number 8. He has no visitors except for a spectacled fair fat man who visits him on Sundays for lunch. Number 9. Food and tea are taken to his room by Ramesh from the restaurant downstairs. He doesn't care what he eats, pays his bill immediately and tips well. That's end my list. Have I forgotten anything, Seven? So children, in the previous audio we already said that it was a holiday, unexpected holiday. So she wrote in her paper, catching a crook, expert detectives Nishad and Maya Pandit by appointment to the whole world. Okay, then she began writing all the minor details about Mr. Nath. When she was writing that Nishad, seven, otherwise called as Nishad, he was lying on his tummy, chin cupped in his palms, reading comics. And she asked him, do you want to hear what all information I collected? Then fact by fact she began to list all the information. What was the first fact? His name is Mr. Nath. Then they wanted to find out what is his real name. Then they are having alias means alternative name. So they are having a discussion whether this Mr. Nath, maybe it's other name or is it a other name or alternative name will be there. They are discussing. Okay. Then second point. Tenants at the Shankar house says he is mad, strange and unfriendly. Tenant means a person who occupies land or property rented from a landlord. Then she said that all the tenants at Shankar house said that Mr. Nath was mad, strange and unfriendly. Then Nisha didn't comment anything. The third fact was that he didn't talk to anyone and was mannerless. So Nishad interrupted. He said that no, Maya, he used to talk to us. He used to talk to Mama and he's very polite also. Then Maya said that Mr. Nath talked to them only because he had to. Moreover, he was under their mother's medical treatment. So he had to be polite. Then The next fact was that Mr. Nath didn't receive any letter, and Nishad had nothing to complain. Okay, then Maya continued that Mr. Nath had been living in a room number 10 of Shankar's house for more than a year. Then she also says he doesn't work and sit in his room all day, and all the kids in Shankar house and even grown up, they were scared of him. Then the next fact was that there was no visitors except for the tall, fair, stout, and spectacled man who visit every Sunday for lunch. Then the next fact she discovered was that food and tea were taken to his room by Ramesh from the restaurant downstairs, and Mr. Nath didn't care what he ate. He paid his bills immediately and tipped well. Okay, these are the findings of Maya. Nishad had obviously not been paying too much attention to my list of facts. All he could say was, "Poor man, Maya. He must be so lonely if he doesn't have any friends." "How can a crook have friends, idiot?" I almost shouted. "At least he has one friend, that one who meets him on Sundays," said Nishad. A brilliant thought occurred to me just then. "That man must be Mr. Nath's accomplice in crime," I said. "Maybe he keeps all the loot and he comes now and then to give part of it to his partner, Mr. Nath, for expenses. That's it. I'm sure I'm right." "If you insist on calling him a criminal, I don't think I want to discuss anything with you, Maya," said Nishad angrily. "He cannot be such a bad man if he gives Ramesh such generous tips." "Ramesh probably knows something about his past, so Mr. Nath must be bribing him to keep quiet," I said. Nishad glared at me with his arms tightly crossed across his chest. I was beginning to get fed up with him. "How can we make any progress with our investigations if you take that attitude, Seven?" I asked. "I'll cooperate only if you give up this idea about him being an escaped crook," said Seven. "You really make me angry." I almost hit him. "I make you angry, you stupid oaf," I shouted. "You make me mad. What is the point of all these inquiries if he is not a crook? If you think he's a nobody, what is the idea about bothering about him? Please tell me." So children, in this paragraphs, you can see that there was a clash between Maya and Nishad. Maya just want to establish that Mr. Nath is a crook, a criminal, but Nishad was not ready to accept. And Nishad was not paying any attention to the list of facts which was read by Maya. And after hearing all this list and facts, Nishad just told that, "Poor man, he must be so lonely." Then Maya retorted, she answered back, "How can a crook have friends, idiot?" I almost shouted. "I" here refers to Maya. So Maya shouted, "How can a crook have friends? Usually these criminals won't have any good friends, is it?" So Nishad said, "No, he has one friend who meets him on Sunday." Then suddenly a brilliant thought occurred to Maya. What was that? She just interrupted. She just interpreted that Mr. Nath, accomplice means helper in crime. That person who used to visit on all Sunday. Do you remember, children? That stout man wearing spectacles who talks a lot. So Maya is coming with the conclusion that the visitor, the Sunday visitor, is also a criminal. Maybe he keeps all the loot and he comes now and then to give part of it to his partner. Loot means stolen money. So what happened? She thought that the visitor must have been Mr. Nath's partner in crime. The visitor kept on coming to Mr. Nath to give his share for expenses. This visitor kept all the stolen money, and when he visited Mr. Nath, he would give a part of it to him for expenses. Then you can see that Nishad told her angrily that if she kept on calling Mr. Nath a criminal, he would not want to discuss anything with her. This means that he would never talk to her again. He also said the fact that Mr. Nath tipped Ramesh well. That means he wasn't a bad man, is it? A bad or criminal won't give tips, and sometimes he won't pay bills also. But here you can see that Mr. Nath is a very good person because he used to give money to Ramesh. Then what did this Maya say? She said that Ramesh probably knows something about his past. So Mr. Nath must be bribing. Bribing means giving someone money in exchange of the person doing a favor. That is bribing. Bribing means. Okay, so here you can see they are fighting. Nishad glared at Maya with his arms tight crossed across his chest. I was beginning to get fed up with him. So Maya is getting fed up because this Nishad is not ready to accept what she's telling. Okay. Then this Maya is telling that Ramesh knew something about Mr. Nath. So in order to hide that secret, Mr. Nath is giving money to Ramesh. Then you can see that Nishad was extremely angry, and he glared at Maya with his arms tightly crossed across his chest. As a result of this gesture, Maya began getting fed up. So Maya, when seeing this Nishad, what to say, putting the hands tightly across his chest, Maya began to get angry. Then you can see that they are discussing how can we make any progress with our investigation if you take this attitude 7. Hmm? Maya is asking Nishad how they could make any progress with their investigation if he is having such attitude. Then you can see Maya is calling Nishad off. Off means a person who is not intelligent, a fool. Maya got very angry. She hit Nishad. Okay. And she even called him a stupid off. She asked him the point of all those inquiries he had done if he thought he was not a crook. And she asked him why he was bothering about him by questioning Ramesh and meeting Mr. Nath if he thought that he was a nobody. So here Maya is telling that why are you doing all this investigation if you think that Mr. Nath is a normal person? Because you usually do investigations for those who are doing something bad, is it? For criminals, you usually do investigations. If you think that Mr. Nath is a normal person, why are you inquiring to all the details? Maya asked. Let's come to the next paragraph. Nishad looked thoughtful. I would like to find out why he's so thin and why he's so lonely. I want to know why he doesn't have any friends and lives alone. Try to understand, Seven, I told him. If he has lived in Shankar house for a year and hasn't made a single friend, there is something wrong. He is obviously scared that someone will recognize him and give him up to the cops. Maybe no one tries to make friends with him, Nishad protested. Why should anyone bother? You have seen what a nasty bear he is, I said. I don't care, said Nishad stubbornly. I like him and I am going to try and be his friend. Friends with a crook. Ha! You're crazy, Seven, I said. The cops will take you to jail with him. Do you want that to happen, you idiot? Nishat merely glared at me and quietly walked out of the room. My theories seemed to have made no impression on him at all. So, children, here you can see that Nishat looked thoughtful as he was thinking about the answer to his sister's question. He told her that he wanted to know why he was so thin and why he was so lonely. He also wanted to know why he didn't have any friends and lived all alone. So these are the questions that comes to Nishat's mind. He is not thinking in a very deep way. He just wanted to find out why this person is so thin. Okay, and why he is not having any friends. Then Maya tried her best to make him understand. She told him that if he had been living in the Shankar house for a year and hadn't made any friends, there was something fishy about him. Okay, there is something. There will be some secret. He said that he was obviously scared of making any friends because if someone would recognize him, he would be given up to the cops. Cops means police. Okay, now let's see. Maybe no one tries to make friends with him, Nishat protested. Why should anyone bother? You have seen what a nasty bear he is. I said. I don't care, said Nishat stubbornly. I like him and I'm going to try and be his friend. Protested means retorted. Nasty means harsh, unfriendly. So Nishad here he says that Mr. Nath had no friends because no one is trying to make friendship with him. Maybe because of that. Then Maya is asking why anyone would even bother being friends with him. She added that Mr. Nath was a nasty bear and Nishad himself had seen so. However, Nishad was stubborn and said that he didn't care if he actually was a bad, as Maya said. He liked him regardless of all the things Maya said about him, and he added that he was going to try and be Mr. Nath's friend. So here you can see that a big clash between the two detectives, is it? Maya and Nishad. They are fighting. Nishad is telling that I am not ready to drop his friendship. I want to know all details about him. I am going to be friend with him. Then Maya said, friends with a crook, ha, you are crazy, Seven. The cops will take you to jail with him. Do you want that to happen, you idiot? Impression means impact. Okay, she laughed at Seven's wish to be friend with Mr. Nath, who was a crook. She made fun of Nishad. She told him that he was a crazy man, and she also told him that if the cops, the police, would get to know that he was friend of Mr. Nath, they would take Nishad to jail. Then she asked him if he wanted to go to jail due to anger and frustration about not being able to make Nishad understand. She called him an idiot as well. So Nishad got very upset. What did he do? He didn't give any reply. Hmm? And because he wanted to be firm on his words. He doesn't want to listen to his sister. So he quietly walked out of the room. And according to Maya, her theories had zero impact on him. So what Maya has found, it did not put proper impact on Nishad, and he left the room. So students, here we throughout this lesson we can see that children have sharp intellect and observation. Is it? There are two children here, the central characters, Nishad and Maya. And Maya jotted down the lines of investigation. Nishad had a very curious mind too. They were obsessed with the idea get to know about Mr. Nath. They inquired from Ramesh, who brings food for him. Nishad tried to enter into his house to investigate. They are coming with lots of ideas, yet their motive wasn't to make fun of him. They were forgiving, compassionate, soft hearted, who are willing to lend their helping hand to the needy. For them, everyone should be happy. So they are just trying to find out the reality behind Mr. Nath. And you can also see that they are observing each and every minute details of Mr. Nath. They are very curious to collect all the information. But the fact is that one person is different from others. Hmm? Sometimes the ideas that you are bringing may not suit well with the other one. So they are having a clash. But still, you can see that children are very interested. Said they are very dedicated in their job. They wanted to find out the reality about Mr. Nath. So children, here we come to the end of the explanation part. Hope you all understood. Thank you.